You are listening to the Project Z Factor Show, storytelling at its finest, with your host Zayet on Hindsight Media Radio 103.5 FM. Because this is your voice, your platform, and your impact, we cover interviews, research, education, music, documentaries, entertainment, and advocacy. This is more than a podcast. This is the Z Factor. So enter at your own risk. You are listening to the Project Z Factor show right here on Hindsight Media Radio 103.5 FM. Just in case you're tuning in and missed the intro, we air every fourth Thursday at 8 p.m. live and Sunday at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time live on Hindsight Media Radio. But if you miss the live recordings, you can visit our website. Project Z Factor is under the production portion of our company, Jamae Phoenix Community.com. So that's JAMAE Community, Jamae Phoenix Community.com. Under the media tab, you can find our recordings thus far. This is our third show, and we are monthly at this point. I have a co host that will embrace the mic with us tonight, and I would like to introduce our wild card. Dre is here this evening. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm pleased to be here co-hosting with my wife.
Yes, if you failed to read our bio on our website, or if you have not listened to our introduction and welcoming on Ty's show, which is on Hindsight Media Radio, Miss Ty, we are married couple, friends and business partners who work together. And this is a part of our mission and legacy that we want to leave for our community. If you don't know anything about Jermaine Phoenix community, we advocate for change, cohesiveness, and positive relationships within our community. That's our main goal. And with everything going on in this world for the past year with COVID, elections, and racial tensions, and voting, as well as our recent shootings, we have so much that is affecting our individual communities with deaths and sicknesses. However, there have been people who have had positive things happening during this time, and we don't want to just stick with the negative all the time. However, we are here to talk about some things that have been happening, and we want to address those from our point of view. I would like to start with just some of the recent things that are happening. What have you seen in the last couple months that has really propelled you to want to bless the mic today and just talk about what you're feeling, Dre?
Well, one of the things is most recently the amount of violence that we're seeing in the U.S., particularly when it comes to targeting specific ethnic groups. Most recently, the Asian community in Colorado, as well as the other shooting that happened a few days ago, as well in Atlanta. Um, it seems like it's a migration from group to group, um, and that's one of the reasons why I want to step up to the mic today.
Well, the Asian community was affected here in Atlanta. We don't know right now what the target and why we have what motive the shooter was in Colorado. They're still trying to figure that out. It looks like it's just random, but there has been an active shooter who killed 8 Asian women, far as I can remember, right here in our home state. Georgia. We're out of the outskirts of Atlanta, but we're here, and it has affected the communities. They're about 40 minutes away from where we live. However, since I have been able to connect with different counties across Georgia. We know that the spa shooting could possibly have something to do with sex trafficking since the shooter was sexually addicted, as the reports stay allegedly. And so that hits home for me because what we train with the Jermaine Phoenix community when we educate people and enlighten people on the epidemic of sex trafficking is that, most of the time, our young girls and boys are brought into this lifestyle and their profession, as some of the sex traffickers call it, starts in spas, strip clubs, and different things like that. So these women may have been targeted because of that, but without further research and as evidence continues to come about, we'll know more. The Colorado shooting is another thing that has just really just shook our core as a community, even though we're not in Colorado. It feels like it could be any of us because it was random. It was in a shopping center in the middle of the day. Elderly people were hurt, workers were hurt and killed. So this is not only affecting, Colorado. When things happen here in Georgia, it affects our world. And what do you think as a community we could do to embrace where we are, but empower and be there for one another? Dre?
I think it really boils down to a code of conduct.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what we had discussed previously offline
Mm-hmm.
is that there appears to be, when things happen,
Mm-hmm.
people kind of look the other way
Right.
instead of taking accountability for things that happen in their community, whether there's issues with mental health, which is kind of indicate they're trying to lean towards on CNN and some of the other major news networks. They're trying to they're indicating that it may have been some sort of mental health issue with the Colorado incident. Um, as a community, when we see things that aren't right, especially when there are loved ones who are involved, who when you have people who commit these type of crimes,
Mm-hmm.
there's usually red flags.
Mm-hmm.
And so as a result of these red flags, they're usually surrounded by someone
Mm-hmm.
who's probably seeing it. And so it should be their civic duty to really do something, whether to notify the authorities or mental health or whatever the case may be, but of course to use safety.
Right. One of the things that we focus on with our company, that we have together, and now our nonprofit, Jemay Phoenix Community Outreach, is the strengthening of our family foundation through relationship building. I know that in the brown and black communities, sometimes we feel as if mental illness is not a legitimate reason for us to go through things or to feel like we are not capable of doing things. I love that Taraj Henson is able to have a show on, I think, Peace of Mind, it's called. And I know you saw me watching that a couple of episodes last week, and I was staying away from it because I was like, I don't know if I want to really deal with it. But I realized that we do have to deal with it because it affects all people. And especially since we've been in COVID, so many people have been pushed to limits that they normally would not be in. For example, with me, I was on a great stride of losing weight, you and I both exercising. And then, excuse me, when the epidemic hit and we were not able to go to the gym, we really had to change our whole mindset of how we were going to work out. And for a while, we were in a little slump, and so I had to redirect my path and, okay, what do I need to do to get myself, because I found myself even getting depressed. So why do you think that it's important that family is able to be there for one another, but also able to find ways to help someone if they do see red flags.
I think it breaks down to the code of conduct because family basically they set the values, and
Mm-hmm.
then it's really an extension from family to community, from community to neighborhoods, neighborhoods to cities, and so forth. And
Mm-hmm.
so what's happened, it's like a down leadership thing. When you look at former President Trump,
Mm-hmm.
when he made that statement that COVID was a Asian disease or virus, he kind of stirred emotions, negative
Mm-hmm.
emotions,
Mm-hmm.
directed towards a targeted group of people.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result of that, you've seen what has happened, especially with the Capitol
Mm-hmm.
as well, in terms of rioters. And so, you have some people who are out there, they're weak. They're
Mm-hmm.
weak minded. They think they're doing this, they think they're doing something that's important by whatever ideology or they have, misconstrued ideology. And so they're going out there and they're committing these heinous acts.
What do you mean by weak minded?
I'm saying weak minded in the sense that sometimes when they use that in the media, they're saying that, well, they're blaming someone else for their own actions.
Mm-hmm. So
So,
you're basically saying that there are people who will follow anyone. So even though a person may not be a upstanding leader, there are some people who may follow them in that instant, even when they're not leading well.
and not using their own judgment. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
therefore, you have leaders and you have followers. and
Mm-hmm.
and if you're mentally incapacitated,
Mm-hmm.
your mental state, you're not going to be able to make a rational decision.
Mm-hmm.
And so inflicting injury to other people is not rational.
Yeah, exactly. So, a lot of times, as families deal with what is happening now, our kids, some of us are virtual and online, others, kids are going to school because, there are different dynamics with work, whether we work from home, whether we have to go to work. So, life still is moving on for some people, and other people, it has to change drastically. But for all of us, it has changed for multiple reasons. And so at this point, we are looking at how do we really make an impact in our community when there's so many different dynamics hurting. We talked about shootings, we talked about the election, we talked about sex trafficking and the dynamics of that. When I think about what we had to do as a family last year, we had to make some major choices as well. And so we took what we learned and we started to create programs and platforms so that we can have those ideas and ideologies put into our program to affect the community. How do you think that Jamae Phoenix community can make an impact and other people can follow in that model?
Well, I think that Jermaine Phoenix, part of our mission is basically to empower.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you build up the community or your neighborhood, usually it starts with the family unit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you have more of a voice. And this was evident, especially in Georgia,
Mm-hmm.
and when it went from red to blue,
Right.
because most people had a voice. They were
Right.
tired of the status quo and they wanted to change.
Right.
So that's really showing how the power of identity
Mm-hmm.
and self influence can help one to make positive change. And we're about change
That's
as a company.
exactly right. That's exactly right. When that happened, Georgia is hitting a lot of different milestones. We had our first black, what was it, senator?
We had first black senator, first Jewish senator, um,
Yes.
and we had a couple of other things that were going on as well, especially in the first time that I think in 20 years that Georgia turned blue. if I'm not
Exactly.
mistaken.
Exactly. So what happened was these individuals decided that they wanted to make a difference. They wanted to make a change. And they started right then and there. Just like Stacey Abrams when she ran for her position a while ago, it did not end well for us. We were really rooting for the people who voted for her, wanted her to win, but it did not end well for her. However, she was able to take that and then change a whole state with the help of so many community advocates and members to say, listen, our voice matters. And so there are so many movements going on right now. That's what our focus on is with the Jamae Phoenix is to let our voice, our platform, and our impact matter. We want people to have a voice. As you have transitioned in different roles in business, what do you see that is something that you're really passionate about that you think communities need more of?
I think based on some of the projects that we worked on in the past,
Mm-hmm.
especially the lower income areas,
Mm-hmm.
there were certain trends. And so we want those particular neighborhoods to be self sufficient
Mm-hmm.
because when you're self sufficient, then you can build up your community. And then at that point, you build up an economic power base. And then
Yes.
from there, as we've seen before, economics basically influences politics. So it's sequential in
Mm-hmm.
terms of how you build up that structure from
Mm-hmm.
family to neighborhood to community to government.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, economics to government
Mm-hmm.
is necessary. So it's building as many businesses, self sufficient businesses, especially in these areas that need it.
Mm-hmm.
That would be probably one of the best places to start. And then from there, you build up your political framework.
Right. I love the quote that I was speaking to one of my mentors, and we were talking about the different things that were happening in society. And she said, you know what? You only remain a statistic if you prefer that position. And I thought, whoa, that's a no victim mentality. That is one of the programs that we want to facilitate within empowering our youth. Right now, I'm involved with different schools, and our children are suffering mentally, physically, and emotionally because they have never been in a position to be able to provide, everything to them is provided online. No social gatherings, none of that is able to happen in 100% of the time. So sometimes it can happen and sometimes it can't. So we are looking at finding ways to empower these young children who are not able to do the traditional things like go to the prom, go to graduation. These are things that we all have to look differently at now that we're in a different space. So, if you were to leave our audience with some just nuggets of wisdom, how can they transition from what they're used to something that they need to do right now, even if it's not comfortable? Because I know you were able to do a lot of things mentally and business wise, but you really had to get to a place where you had to think differently. So, what would you tell others that looked like for you to get out of your unstuck mindset at one point and not be a victim to the circumstances that we are facing?
I think you have to believe. You have to
Mm-hmm.
believe in yourself, and it really boils down to self identity
Mm-hmm.
because we're special people, and that's something that Claude Anderson has said. A lot of my professors back in college,
Mm-hmm.
they have said the same thing as well. We create a lot of things, and so you can kind of create your the path that you want, but you have to put that effort out.
Why do you like Claude Edison so much? I know I always ask you that, but you do have a very keen liking to his philosophy. Why do you like his liking? When you say we, what are you referring to?
So when I mean we as a people.
Mm-hmm.
And so Claude Anderson, I mean he's similar to Henry Clark, John Henry Clark, Professor Turner, James Turner,
Mm-hmm.
A lot of scholarly thinkers, but he's very, very practical in his approach.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's saying a lot of issues that people have is based really it's their own self constraints. And
Mm-hmm.
so once you're able to really move from that, then you can move individually, then you can move as a group. And then from a group, then you can move as a community. And then it kind of compounds. So I like his philosophy because he basically he uses more of an economic approach to it,
Mm-hmm.
but he also talks about individuals as well because you need that community in order to make change as well as change code of conduct.
Mm-hmm.
And you get a group of people thinking the same way, then you have a corporation.
Mm-hmm. What I
That's what I
like,
like.
what I like about the philosophy that you often repeat is about building our community, and that has been, again, like you said, our mission and our framework. One of the platforms that we use to build our community is this radio show, partnering with Hindsight Media. We're able to do that. We're also able to do that through consulting, and we both volunteer and mentor and help with other small business organizations. We also have a company that we also lend our services and expertise to through Jemay Phoenix Community. And then now our nonprofit, where we want to leave a legacy in our community and follow the tradition of so many other pioneers, which is taking what God has given you, your purpose, your passion, and making a difference. And so most of our shows will be on the stories of others. So even though we have not specifically hit a certain theme, these are all relevant stories of how we see life, how we connect with one another in this world. This is one of the reasons why we started this show, Project Z Factor, where we do storytelling at its finest, interviews, research, documentaries. Sometimes when we just talk and have banter, because conversation does provoke initiation, which also can provoke change. So, as you continue to tune in with us on a monthly basis until we become more consistent in our storytelling, we will be here to talk about the things that matter most to us, things that may be present in the past and how we look for in the future. And the wild card here, Dre, will be blessing us with his presence more often to give us insight and share some of the workshops that he will be starting with some of the men that he is partnered with to help bless our communities in such a way. So we really want to thank you for listening in to us. You can always visit us on our website, JemayPhoenixCommunity.com. Visit our YouTube channel, follow us on Instagram and Facebook at JemayPhoenixCommunity.com. This is the Project Z Factor show, a part of the Jemay Phoenix Company. And again, thank you for joining us. Dre, I appreciate you being on the mic with me tonight.
Oh, no problem. Definitely. I'm glad to be here.
And we will see you guys on the next one. Remember, we're on the fourth Thursday at 8 p.m. and the fourth Sunday at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Stay blessed and be blessed.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Project Z Factor Show, storytelling at its finest. Please join us for our next episode on the last week of the month, Thursday at 8 p.m. and Sunday at 3:30 p.m. on Hindsight Media Radio 103.5 FM. To connect with us directly, please visit us on our social media platforms at Jemay Phoenix Community and Project Z Factor. This has been a Jemay Phoenix Community production. See you at the next episode.